more. Remember, session will be recorded and will be uploaded into our YouTube channel. Welcome. Welcome to another webinar by YaSemoseuropeos, this time to analyze the competition of lawyer linguist. Please confirm that everybody's seen my screen, right, with the presentation. You have no issues with that part, right? All good? Yes, excellent. By the way, I forgot to present myself. My name is Nico Cruz, and I will be your guide through this journey on the lawyer linguist competition, the episode AD 423/25. Okay, so let's start. How are we going to do it? Very simple. We will go through an overview of the notice of competition and the conditions to apply. Then we will check briefly the application. As you may know, if you have already started with the procedure, see that the platform is different than from the previous competitions in the past. For you, it's new, and also for the last episode competition. Then we will also comment a little bit about the test. Probably you're wondering, so that's coming. And of course, last tips or inputs that we think can be useful for all of you and your questions. We will be open to all of them. Okay, so let's start. So, about this competition. Yeah, initial warning. Yeah, big, big letters to be sure. What we are going to share with you is not only what we have read in the notice of competition, what is our understanding based on our experience, but also our experience in other EPSO competitions. Okay, so there's been all previous lawyer linguist competitions in the last 5 years. There's been several, so we took some ideas from there in order to contrast and offer better advice on what you can expect. The EU law competition, it was between 2020 and 2022. Maybe some of you took part of this competition. And the translator competition that is happening right now. I mean, the exam took place a couple of weeks ago. Well, a couple of weeks and 1 week ago. Now they are waiting for the results that will come eventually, but give us also some good perspective. That's one thing. And the second thing that we wanted to tell you is that maybe you are not for one of the current competitions, but the future competitions that are coming in May. So good news. I mean, we think that they will be completely equivalent. Okay. Is that for I did it on purpose? I put Estonian there, but it's one of the languages that appears in this competition, and it's a bit weird. I think it's a typo by EPSO in the announcement of future competitions. They probably Lithuanian, most likely, rather than Latvian, than Estonian. But we will see on May. But just as a warning, but process related, content related on the competition, I think they will be equivalent. So what we're going to tell you today will help you in that competition as well. Let's start. So what do we have? Well, we have languages: Danish, German, English, Estonian, Croatian, Dutch, Romanian, and Slovenian. And I will focus on languages, not nationalities, no other things, because I think the word languages is the key word on this competition. It's not related to your nationality at all, only to the fact of your studies and your knowledge and your competences. But can I be an Hungarian candidate who is bilingual in Dutch and has a degree in law in Dutch in the Netherlands? Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, that could be it. I mean, that's it. Important to say that all the competitions have 25 seats for the reserve list, except English, that is 33. Yeah, I mean, it's a simple question that English now is everywhere. We have to accept it. So that's why it's a bit more demanded. That's why. Does it mean that this affect your chances of getting a position in one of these reserve lists? No, not at all. Independently of the language that you will apply, remember you can only apply to one of these languages. The chances are good. Meaning, if you do the things right, you do the things properly, you study slash prepare practice with exercises, you don't commit mistakes, your chances of putting your name in that reserve list are quite high. Because experience tells us that, for instance, in the reasoning part, around one third, between 1/4 and 1/3 of the candidates fail directly that part. That's the starting. And also considering that there's another percentage that maybe they have passed the reasoning, but still they haven't prepared anything at all. So, or they haven't really think about the competition itself. So they go there without not many chances. So all these things should help you to get the idea that if I do the things right, if I devote some quality time, not quantity, but quality time, if I prepare correctly, I will get it. Oh, my chances to get it are high. Of course, we cannot promise. There is always external factors. Imagine that the day of the exam you fall sick, your performance is poor. There are always these uncontrollable factors, but yeah, honestly, at the end, it's a question of just being focused on doing things as they have to be done. I'm focusing only on the exams now. Please, please, please. I know that you're wondering, but what if I have my name on the reserve list? What I will do next, and so on. Fair questions, but not in this moment. Now, in this moment, from now until the day of the exam, focus only on performing great in your exam. Then, once you have your name on the list, we can talk about what to do next. And with pleasure from YaSemoseuropeos, we will help you on that part. So just focus on yourself, focus on doing things right. Important things from your competition to bear in mind. All of you will be invited to the test, to the exam. This is because in the past, in the previous model, sometimes the eligibility, some filter, some screening was done before the exams. And so not all the candidates were invited. This is not anymore the case. So all of you will be invited to the exam. That's it. Simple and effective. The exam will be very likely in 2 days, like translators. Why? How come? We will see. But time-wise, the time that you need to take the exams is very long if you do it everything in one day. So that's why we think that it most likely will be in 2 days. Unfortunately, you won't have the results until the end of the process. So remember that part. The conditions to participate are very simple. Very, very simple. First of all, important to mention, you don't need to provide any evidence of your language skills, on your language knowledge. It will be done through the test, through the exams of this competition. So remember that is one of the biggest paradox in the institutions and European institutions, particularly the Commission, to become part of the institutions officer. You don't need to provide any evidence of your languages skills, only through the test, through the exams, in practical terms. While for being an stagiaire, blue book, you need to provide some certificate and some documents. In this competition, no documents for languages. It's done via exams. So, and you need a level of C2 and C1. These are for reference. Yeah, I don't have any certificate in language 3, and I think my level is more to near to B2 than C1. Is that a problem? No, I mean you can take the competition and let's see, because maybe your knowledge and your capacities of that language are higher than you may think. So no need. I mean, if you just took language 3, language that you barely control, that you barely understand, well, you have an issue. You will get probably a 0 on comprehension part. But fine, still you have just chances. I'm just saying, mathematically speaking, and we will see that later. So yeah, let's go through the conditions. This is important because I think in the notices sometimes it's not fully clear how to do all these things. So part of the classics, national of member states, fulfill your obligations imposed by law on military service, fine, meet the character requirements for the duties concerned. Okay, overall, you say yes to all this when you fill in the application. So on the languages, the specific conditions are mentioned, language 1, language 2, and language 3. Okay, and we will now I'll give more details. This part is simple, not big deal. Let's go to the split of the languages. And I insist, the evidence of time passing the test of the competition. No need of providing any document. Okay, we see that in English, there is a small difference compared to the others. So this is going to be two kind of paths for those in English and for those in the other 7 languages. And if you're watching this webinar later on and you are planning to be a candidate on the next competition on lawyer linguist. So follow the path of those 7 languages that are not English. So in the case with English, language 1 is English, but for the others, Danish, German, Estonian, Croatian, Dutch, Romanian, Slovenian, fine, we did. So the thing is that if you take English, then you have language 2, any official language of the European Union different from other than English. And language 3, anyone different from language 1 and language 2, different from English and whatever is the language 2. For the other 7 languages, is the first language of the competition. You see, the second you cannot choose is English or English. That's it. And the third, up to you. You feel free to choose. There is no benefits for choosing one language or other. There is no, I can choose between French and Italian. Which one is better? Doesn't matter. The language where you can be more proficient, where you can get more, score more points in the test. As simple as that. No rule, nothing. I mean, on that, the process is completely neat and clean. So choose according to your capacities and take into account the test that you're gonna face. That's also important. So if we continue with this, now we are approaching to the specific conditions, the qualifications, because one of the ironic parts of your competition is that it's an 87 high level. So that's good, but the experience required is none. In principle, there are some exceptions that we are going to see, but in principle, you only need your law degree, and that's it. So that's quite positive. I'm speaking on generic terms. I know the notice includes some exceptions, some indications that I will try to cover. First of all, it's the fact that if your degree in law is the 3 years degree, you will need a 1 year work experience. If you have a 4 years degree, then that's it. That's fine. So in principle, no professional experience is required. But in case we're candidate 3 years, then you need one, uh, uh, 1 year of legal experience. So I hope this is clear. But if again, if you got a degree of 4 years on law, super, forget it. You don't need professional experience. Simple and clear. Also, there's another great advantage. Imagine that you're still studying. Imagine that you haven't finalized your studies, but you're getting your degree summer this year. You're finalizing it, getting your 4 years degree in law in June. Can I apply to this competition because the process will be closed by then? Yes, you can. It's possible. I mean, according to notice of competition, in case where the diploma is sufficient to meet the eligibility requirements, 4 years degree, for a given competition, such diploma must be awarded latest on the 14th of September 2025. And that's super. That's excellent. I mean, that gives further opportunities for those of you who are still studying. So let's not forget that, okay? So important to bear that in mind. And also give you a lot of time to upload the documents. So you can just concentrate on the exam and taking the exam and everything, and then upload the documents. Good. But on complementary note, what about the degrees and so on? It's important that you pay attention what are the conditions for each language and the degrees. And that's why I'm insisting on the languages. I know in some cases, language country is almost the same thing, meaning Danish. Well, I think Denmark is where you can have this Danish law degree. Fine, it's straightforward. But for instance, for German, could be in Germany or in Austria. So be careful with that. Estonia, the Croatian, same thing. So you have the indication. We just try to translate those requirements into the slides. But in case of doubt or in case of something is not fully clear, follow the notice of competition where it's clearly established the type of degrees that you entitles you, give you access to the competition. That's for Danish and for Croatian, Dutch, Romanian, Slovenian, same thing. In the case of Dutch, it could be Netherlands or could be Belgium, Flemish part. Okay, so this is important, but then we are approaching to one exception. It's English, right? I mean, what's going on? Because there was Brexit, so there's not England. or United Kingdom, but we got some other countries, some other member states who have English as an official language. So we have some possibilities. First of all, Ireland. I studied in Dublin in the Trinity College. Super, fine. That's it. You got the conditions there. But I study my law degree in Malta. Okay, so there you go. Also, it's possible. So fine, you have your chance there. But what about other possibilities? What if you got your degree before the Brexit in the UK? So there are several possibilities here. So you see, before January 2021, when the Brexit happened, so then there are several possibilities in relation with UK. Super, that's another option. So, meaning if you got your degree in Ireland, forget what I mentioned now. If you got your degree in UK before 2021, then you apply this one or other options. So the last one, and that's why we put in red on top work experience is required on this particular case, because this is combined on different options regarding the on an extra module of EU law in order to complete your studies to be that need to be taught in English or complete with some legal experience. Conditions are there, so check which one applies to you to follow it, and be sure that in your application, use especially if it's the case, the last case, the case D of the for English, you explain correctly. It's clearly visible what you have been your academic degree was taught in English, that everything was in English, and then you have as complementary element a module on EU law, or you have the working experience needed that is required as a complementary element. Okay. That's one thing. Okay. Sorry, let me see on the chat. Registration form you find for languages you can fill in the notice. There are only 3 languages. I'm going to talk about that later. So don't worry about the languages. Yeah, that's coming. Okay, but hope this is clear. I mean, I think that when you read the notice for the first time, it can be a bit messy, but focus on your own language and fulfill it. If you are not attending the English part, but any other, I think it's quite straightforward. For the English could be a bit trickier, especially if you haven't studied in Ireland or in Malta, but that's fine. I think once you have understood this, it's pretty clear. If you have any further question later, you can ask, or then by email, contact us to help you on this. Okay, that was one. And another element that is coming from the notice of competition is the evaluation for each competition, is the evaluation for each test, and how it's going to proceed, how it's going to be the procedure. Okay, it's going to be the whole of it. This is important you to know. I'm not going to go deep now in the details of each test, but on the whole evaluation procedure. Well, as any other competition, you will have your reasoning test, verbal, numerical, and abstract. Fine. You pass them, meaning you get 15 out of 30 in the combined result. What if I get 10 in verbal, but I get 0 in numerical and 0 in abstract? You're out. What if I get 5 in verbal, 5 in numerical, and 5 in abstract? You are in. As simple as that. Let's imagine that you get the minimum score on the reasoning test. Right. Then they evaluate your EU test. Remember that you are taking all these tests together, so it doesn't matter how you perform on the first test, that you are still taking the second test and the third and the fourth. It's only evaluation what I'm referring to. So they have evaluated your exam. Reasoning, fine. You get 15 or more out of 30. Good. So now they are evaluating your EU test results. So there, if you got 15 or more, you are in. If you get less than 15, you're out automatically. Simple as that. But then from there, they will establish a ranking per language, meaning that they can only compare the candidates in the language of German with the German candidates, the candidates in Danish with the candidates in Danish, and so on. But what happens if in English there are 1,000 candidates and in Estonian only 100? Forget it. It's 1,000 one side, 100 in the other. They don't combine. Okay, so we are talking for each language independently. So they check EU law, you get 15 or more. Good. So then they will rank you according to the results on EU law. Of course, only those who have got 15 of between 15 and 30. The higher you get, the higher you are in the ranking, up to 100, or if it's for English, it will be 22 candidates who will be selected following that ranking. Okay. Matthew, failing any recent test equal being disqualified? No. It's if you get 555, 645, 339, for instance, you are in. Whatever they combine the score. So I mean, and for the average of 50% of right from the beginning, I think for each competition more or less is that. I mean, the reasoning tests are proving to be quite tough lately on the competitions. So a lot of people is left behind there of because they don't prepare, because they get too nervous, this kind of things. So coming back to the selection process. So as I was mentioning, following a ranking of the EULO test, between 100 for each language, except English, that will be 122 candidates that will be selected or ranked as the first ones based on the results on EULO. So from there, they will check your eligibility. In this case, it's the interesting part because they will check the eligibility in the middle of the evaluation of the results. And if you have your law degree in the corresponding language, that's it, fine. In principle, this competition, the eligibility criteria shouldn't be a big problem for any one of you. So, and then they will assess your comprehension results and your revision test results. They will give you the score in order to establish the final ranking of the candidates who will be in the reserve list. Okay. This is important to remember that in the comprehension test, if you get 0, nothing happens, just low score. If you get 12, much better, but that's fine. While in the revision test, you need to get 50 points minimum. Okay, if you get 51, you're still there, and they will rank you to see. Can I get my name in the reserve list with 50 points only? Could be. Depends how many candidates are left, how many pass the comprehension, so how many points are scoring the comprehension test, multiple factors, and also the weight of each exam. This is important to bear that in mind because this formula, it's coming from the notice of competition as well. How will you be ranking and the points that you can have at the end? So if at the end they say, you get the famous email, they say, I'm pleased to announce that your name is on the reserve list with a score of 50 points. How is that possible? 50 points, but only in the revision was and up to 100 plus the comprehension, 12 points. How is that possible? Very simple. You have to count that there's some factors, some correct factors, so they will establish that ranking following them. I mean, multiply the score of EU law between 15 and 30, because if you get lower than 15, you're out. So you don't care to have in the others a great mark. Here is 15, 30. It's multiplied by 0.3 because the factor is 30%. Revision between is half of the scoring, or 50%. So between 50 and 100, because again, if you get 49, you are out. So nobody cares what happened in the rest of the exams. Comprehension, you can have 0, still you get through, no problem with that. Here we establish the difference. In English, you've been told that you will have 2 comprehension exams for language 2 and language 3. While for the other languages, there is only 1 comprehension exam for language 3. Okay, so that means the weight for comprehension in English is 10 and 10%, while comprehension in the other languages is 20%. Mathematically, they're equivalent. You can do the math, and this pure numerical reasoning exercise if you want. So the final score for all of you should be between 29.5 and 61.4. That's what you get by doing the maximum and the weights. So no worry if you get 59 points at the end as a final score, because that's a very good score. You are near the top. Well, if you get 30, it's a low score, but it still could be possible to get in. So it will depend on the number of final candidates and the type of test, the difficulty. So there is not a way of saying now what is the number, the score that you need to get through and to get your name on the list. It's just how it's going to be done. Okay. This is about the ranking. Okay. So what about the test we'll talk in later, but about the application. So important you go to the portal and to the this new system developed by not only by EPSO, by the European Commission, this new portal in order to apply for competitions. So then you have on that portal the different competitions you can apply. This on the picture you have an old photo, so don't worry too much, but you will get different view of the different lawyer linguist competitions, and then on that portal you can prepare your CV. One of the beautiful features of this new portal is that the fact that you upload the information and then you just automatically can copy paste. You can transpose the information from your profile into your application. You don't have to fill it in again, but it's quite good. Saves time. I mean, you can apply in 5 minutes now. And also, there's another big thing is that you can amend your application before the deadline. And you draft it, you leave it, and then you realize, oh, I made a mistake here. I need to correct it. You just go there and you can edit. The moment of the deadline, it has to be validated. That's the only condition. So it should appear like you see on the picture, submitted verified application. So, and the application has been validated, has appeared there. In English or in any profile that you have chosen, you will get a number of candidates there, and that has to be there. But even if it's validated, you can still edit your application. Does it mean that I can be careless and just do whatever I want on my application? I will come back later. No, please pay attention. Try to do it right the first time. Much better, because if we forget, if we make mistakes, and then we try to come back later to it, can there be nasty surprises, or simply that, oh, the deadline was this morning, not tomorrow, so my application was validated but with errors, or I forgot to validate my application. Try to do it right from the very first moment. But let's say that the system now allows us to have second chances in case of errors. Well, in the past, it was not possible. That's one of the biggest advantages of the system. So you will get something like this on the single portal. So you can get a list of the languages. I couldn't screenshot all, but you got the idea. So you just scroll down and you see the others options. In the menu, you will get something like this. So information, eligibility, registration data, my CV, motivation, strength, declaration. All this part you have to fill the name. Usually at the bottom on this picture you cannot see it, but usually at the bottom you get a menu that is saying the elements that are missing in your application. So you have a very good overview of what are the elements that you still need to fill in your application. And now the languages that you ask. It's true that you have 4 languages, but the notice talks about 3. Yeah, probably it's not the most clear aspect in this notice of competition. It's the fact that for the reasoning test is a 4 language. It's considered the 4 language. So for the competition itself, you select, in this case, I was using English as an example. So English language 2 by default. You cannot choose other. For the application, you can select whatever language you want. If you try to select, for instance, English again as language 2, the system itself will tell you, no, English is incompatible with language 1 for test. So you have to select another one according to the notice of competition. If you are using another language, language 2 will be English. Otherwise, it won't accept you to put a different language. Language 3, I put Spanish. I'm Spaniard, so fine. But could I use Hungarian? Yes, sure, for sure. Language 4 for the reasoning test. I put Czech just for fun. With all due respect, I couldn't take the exams in Czech, but I wish. So just to give you the idea that how flexible the system is, just pay a lot of attention to these elements, especially in language 3, because the tests are at the stake, the comprehension test, and language 4 for the reasoning. You want to use 4 different languages? Fine. Do you want to repeat for the language for English? Fine. So that's perfectly possible. Okay. Mhm. Then we fill the application. What can we expect? Oops, sorry, I forgot to delete the element below. I couldn't find the equivalent in the new notice of competition, so I forgot to add an extra warning, but it helped me to remind you. Please check your profile once in a while. Although you will get warnings, automatic warnings via email, sometimes those emails go to the spam. So once you have submitted your application, be sure that you check once in a while your portal and your on the system and your application to see if you got any communication from EPSO. So so you don't get by surprise. That's one thing. Second, about the dates. Well, the timeline that we expect. The application expected, well, expected no, it's marked to be submitted before the 10th of April, noon. Always noon. Upload of documents until 15th of September, noon as well. It's always noon in the open process. And then the reasoning test and the other test expected to be done before the summer break. I know some of you, as the uploading the deadline in September, are thinking that okay, will be after summer break and so on. We don't expect that. Based on how fast has been the translator competition and other competitions are happening, we expect that there will be 1 month, 1 month and a half after the closing of the application period, meaning that you should be ready to have your exam end of May, beginning of June. We bet for early June for one simple reason. In the European working calendar, May has several holidays, makes it a bit trickier to organize the exam and do all the preparations. So that's why first week, second week of June could be very likely the moment to take place the exam, especially if we split in the split in 2 sessions, first week and second week. And then for the reserve list and the results, autumn this year, October most likely as the solution. And then from there, reserve list, and you go for finding your place. Okay. Yep. And what about the test? You're wondering, right? I mean, probably some of you are here only because of that. So let's see. Let's see what about the test. So this is the crocus the map of the situation. Remember why I mentioned about taking the exam in 2 days. How we see it. And this is a educated guess on how it's going to be split the competition, but until you get formal notice from EPSO, this could be different. But in 2 days, I think it's very likely. So based on the time needed to take the exams, so we expect that the reasoning test and the knowledge test will be in one date, and then the comprehension of the revision will be in another date. So with a break between the two tests, something like that. So that makes things more bearable for all of you. Otherwise, in total, will be a bit too long. Meaning, we will be talking about more than 3 hours of exam with the breaks completely absorbs the whole day for you. Yeah. On the reasoning test, important things to bear in mind. Remember that the verbal reasoning test is not comprehension test; it's a different test. So don't don't assimilate the test to one to another. So we expect that in your exam, the verbal reasoning is going to be tough because, well, it's lawyer language. The verbal, it's important for in your competition. So don't confuse with other tests, but at the same time, expect something that it won't be easy. Okay. The good point is that you only need to get 15 out of 30, as I mentioned before, in a combined result of the 3 tests. I mean, it's feasible. I mean, what we wrote there. I mean, your worst enemy by far is the panicking or getting nervous. With these conditions, having a combined score of the 3 tests, I mean, well, maybe we can perform badly on verbal, but we can recover on numerical and abstract, or verbal great and abstract poor. Fine, still we are in. So chances are good. With this distribution, I think results should be fine if you prepare it correctly. I mean, with some time, little by little, progressing on the tricks of the reasoning. Then the EU law. The beauty of this is that we have a competition 2 or 3 years ago, time flies, on EU law. We know how the exam went. It was quite EU law related. There were no surprises regarding the content of the competition. It was classic in that sense. Treaties, general reference to EU law. So elements that anyone who has studied the European law should know. I mean, it was not strange test or nothing, if you allow me to say, weird. So by studying a little bit or reviewing your own knowledge should be fine. The only thing is that you need to score well. So remember that not to fail the easy ones, and the difficult ones try to get as many as possible correct in order to have a high result, elevate passing mark. So you have your name on this preliminary list of 100 or 122 candidates who get into the next phase. Also, time is not an issue. Fail questions don't count. So don't worry about that. 60 minutes for these 30 questions is more than enough. Okay. Mhm. That was one thing about the knowledge, but what about comprehension? Can we expect some legal text? Can we expect some technical documents? No, we don't think so. I mean, they tend to be more literature style, more uh, upper language journalist articles, columns of opinion, these kind of things. So where you need a good understanding, a good comprehension of the text that you have in front of you. What you need to make your understanding of what if you got in front of you is ironic, is sarcastic, is contradictory. What is the idea of the author on this text? These kind of things. So that's the idea of this exam. The second element is that the English, you will have 2 exams, as we mentioned before, in language 2 and language 3. But for the other languages, you will have only 1 exam for your language 3, whatever it is. Okay, so there will be only 12 questions, 25 minutes. It's more than enough. I mean, in principle, time to read the text and to answer all the potential questions. Even time to doubt a little bit about should be A, should be B, should be C. I mean, translators got exactly the same test, so there was no big deal on that part. That's why we say, and that's why we say literature, opinion, journalist, more than literature. Also important, just to be able to grab, to understand, to pay attention to the small details hidden in the language. That's the key part. Could be a question about what's your comprehension, or what's the understanding of this expression, or what's the meaning of this sentence, or what is the intention of the author on this paragraph, these kind of things. I mean, for that, you got a few examples in the EPSO webpage, and this is an example available there. So quite clear. Shouldn't be a big deal. Then about the revision. Here is tricky. It's tricky because again, the strategy changes a little bit, depends on the language. If you are taking English as language 1, you only have to review the text. You have the translation, or translation or directly text in English, and you have to review it. It's the right term. It's the idea is correctly expressed. So it's a revision, a review of the exercise. As simple as that. While for the other languages, German, Danish, Estonian, Croatian, you will have a different, I wouldn't call it strategy, but different request, because you will have to review the quality of the translation. So meaning from language two to language one, so from English to your language one, German, English, German, Croatian, Dutch, and so on, to see if there is any mistake, if there is any element that needs for improvement, sentences that could be better drafted. But also there could be some parts that need translation. Okay, so this kind. Mm, yeah, I know. I was trying to. No, it's as simple as a paragraph. A paragraph that is not translated that you have to translate, and don't expect to have any dictionary or any assistance in the translation of the document. So it's automatically done only with your own knowledge. In the translation competition, for instance, it was exactly the same thing. It was it was purely with the knowledge of the candidates. An important thing, based on what we have seen in your notice, based on what we have seen on previous notices of competition and in translator, we don't think that it will be a purely legal text in the sense of a directive or the wording of a directive, but rather a legal text of text about law. Meaning that the principle of subsidiarity in the European Union, and this comes an essay about that principle of subsidiarity in the European Union that is done in language two, and it goes to language one, and you have to review, to check, translate parts, so on. More this kind of things. So get ready for. Although you can always use a legal text and translate, and its translation to from language two, from language to language one, to check and to review some legal concepts, some wording, some elements. That's feel free to use this kind of strategy. But bear in mind that you will have a long text, probably on an essay on law. Also, we're thinking it will be a long text because it's 90 minutes. And in the translator competition, yeah, for 1 hour they got 600 words more or less. So yeah, I mean 1,000 words could be easily part of the goal and part of the challenge of the text. So don't expect or don't work or don't practice with short text. Yep, coming to the end, some source materials. So how can we help you? So first, well, what we like is to share some free resources accessible to all of you. For the part of the EU law test, the treaties, I think, are a classic, a basic element. The VC of EU law as well is another item that is good to review all these elements. Your EU law manuals, of course, all of you will have at home from your studies at the university some materials. Feel free to grab them again and read them. And for the translation part and the revision and the comprehension of the languages, probably these materials that are available are also on the institution's webpage, or the translation and drafting resources of the European Commission, or the interinstitutional guide will help you to grab all the rules and all the principles on how elements are translated, how principles are translated, words, vocabulary that is used in the institutions if you are not already familiar with it. And of course, the EU Law Your Lex portal with different legal texts and different materials in all kind of languages is always helpful to find these translations and to practice a little bit. I mean, to take some text and to translate to another. So, yep, that will be it. Then, last but not least, short recapitulation. So, this is the planning proposed by EPSO, but important thing is that asterisk that you could see there. The sequence of step 3 and 4, supporting documents and tests, in line with EPS operational needs, may be reversed. So they change, they could have the test first and then supporting documents later. But they have put that order, yes, but in many competitions now, with the new model, we've seen that they have done the test first and the supporting documents later. So please don't get overconfident because you saw a picture saying that the tests were after. I mean, read the small letter. I think that for this competition is quite adequate to insist on that. Yes, last but not least, and we move to your questions, is remember that from YaSemoseuropeos perspective, we can help you with all kind of materials for competitions. For this competition, we will also publish some sources on practice material soon at the end of the month. But also, if you need help with the CBT or reasoning test or with other competitions, of course, we will be happy to help you. And of course, if you are also looking for more free materials and to follow any news on us, so just join the Telegram or the WhatsApp channels, and of course, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We try to be a little bit of everywhere. In YouTube, you will have this video in case you want to rewatch it again. Please don't forget to subscribe and say I like it. This is for the algorithm to get a bit better treatment from YouTube masters on that part. But for the rest, above all, is to help you on this competition. But then there's only one thing left, is that we want you and we want your questions. So let me go to the chat and read one of the questions. And of course, you can open micros and ask. So if the final selection based only on the EPSO score, top scores get to the job, or is the candidate background also taken into account? Once you are in the interview, it's about your CV. It's once your name is on the reserve list, the only order they follow is the alphabetic order with your family name, and that's it. So it's your CV that will get you through the interviews, or to access to an interview, and then yourself on the interview. Can you repeat the example of the languages? Not in English. Language 4 is the language in which you take the abstract, reason, and numerical test. Exactly. I mean, for the 4 languages, the fourth language is the one that you will use for the reasoning test. And it's independent of the other 3 languages. So you can combine as you want. Do we need to submit the supporting documents for all the data in the CV or only the law diploma? That will depend on the information that you put in your application. Meaning, as this application only needs the law diploma, that's more than enough. But imagine that you've been working as a lawyer for 10 years, you want to put that on your application. Then you have to provide the documents to sustain that you've been working for 10 years as a lawyer as well. So the information that you submit through your application need to be supported by evidence, by documents, and that's it. So the more information that you put in your application, the more documents you will need. So the thing is that you will have plenty of time to upload documents. So that's not a big deal. It's not a big problem, or shouldn't be. More questions, more comments. If I left any question unsolved on the chat, please post it again on that part. Well, I'm going to one Matthew's question. Failing in recent test equals being disqualified even if the average of all exams is above 50%. Yes, I'm afraid so. Except for the comprehension test. Remember, those, if you, that doesn't matter if you get 0. But for the revision test, you need minimum 50 points. For the reasoning test, you need the minimum threshold, 15 points out of 30. And for the EU law test, exactly the same, 15 points out of 30. Otherwise, it doesn't matter if you get 100 points in revision and 14 points in law exam, you are out. While if you get 15 in law, 41 in revision, you are still in the competition. So that's why it's so important that all the tests, the comprehension, need to get the minimum threshold. Okay, more questions, more comments? Otherwise, well, I think that all questions have been solved. So will the result list also be open to other DGs? Well, the thing is that in your notice of competition, I just checked this morning, it's indicated 3 institutions, not DGs. I mean, I have it the paper with me here, and it says, to be precise, draw up reserve list from which the European Parliament, the Council of the European Union, and the European Commission may recruit new members of the civil service. So it's open to 3 institutions, meaning that all the Gs in the Commission should have access to this list. Mhm. No. Good. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's good. Lastly, a topic you mentioned to you Blue Book traineeship. Do you know if it's open to candidates who are freshly graduated from the university? The Blue Book trainee, yes. There is no limit of age for the Blue Book. So it's always open to anyone who fulfill the criteria of nationality, the university degree, the other criteria that they may ask. So, and also on my own experience, I've seen Blue Book trainees that have more literally than 50 years. People who decide to change their professional path, they use the Blue Book as a platform, as a turning point to enter or step into the institutions and know how they operate in the inside, and from there move on. So yeah, there's no limits on that part. Always a pleasure to answer those questions. So well, this is it for the moment. We will stop here, but feel free to contact us through social media or through channels, and we will do our best to answer your questions. And yeah, of course, don't forget to check on YouTube once we have uploaded the video. So we'll stay in touch. See you then. Bye.